I think NIL can be a really great thing. Players should get paid for their name, image, and likeness, just like we get paid for our name, image, and likeness. We also live in a capitalistic society. But that doesn't mean I can't call it out when it seems to have gone too far, or the nature in which it's carried out seems flawed. And that's exactly what I think when I hear that Michigan has allegedly offered high school quarterback Bryce Underwood $10.5 million over 4 years. Now, why do I think it's flawed? Because Michigan shouldn't be offering it. Individual companies should be offering it. See, to me, in a perfect NIL world, it would consist of a company reaching out to the player or his reps to strike a deal. There should be no middleman, but now there is. It's truly pay for play. And now the market, if this comes true, has absolutely ballooned, a la Deshaun Watson. To put this in perspective, this amount of money is akin to being at the end of the first round or in the early second round of the NFL draft. Now, I don't have a problem with the concept of NIL at all, but I have a problem with the execution. At this point, kind of is what it is. My second biggest problem is I don't know how you turn down that type of money if it isn't matched by another school. I know what I would do. Also, why would a player ever go to class now? If you're going to drop that type of bag to me, you're not going to make me academically ineligible. College football is peak entertainment right now, and it's hotter than it's ever been. But that doesn't mean that there isn't still things that need to be fixed. And creating a middleman in what should be a two-party transaction should be fixed. So congrats to Bryce Underwood if this holds up. Not saying he's going to Michigan, but it's a great opportunity. It's not his fault at all. But we have totally jumped the shark when it comes to the execution of name, image, and likeness in college athletics. David Cone, former Michigan quarterback. Don't know if he threw a few shekels into the pot. We'll find out soon. My brother, Blaine Crain, who would do probably anything for $10.5 million. Is there anything you wouldn't do for $10.5 million? That you can say on here?
No. That I can say on here? No. I can't.
David, and again, obviously, you played at Michigan, but you do a great job of just like us with being fans of Auburn, giving a realistic view of what's going on at certain places. Do you agree with me that the execution of NIL has just gone so far away from what we thought it was going to be when it was coming out, and that it was a two-party transaction? Now and we have friends that are in collectives that do it, and I wish them nothing but success. That doesn't mean I have to like the premise and the architecture of it. Just kind of where are you at right now with this?
Obviously the sport we love has changed and is changing right before our eyes. And I know there's a lot of people out there listening right now who are frustrated and they're turning their backs on college football because there's a lack of transparency, obviously, when it comes to what is owed from a kid. When you see a figure, $10.5 million, and you pay him that, does he have to honor the season? Does he have to play the entirety? Does he have to play in bowl games? Those are all the answers that we don't know, and I'm glad that you pointed those out, and I understand those frustrations. At the same time, clearly there are market forces at play, and most everyone who loves college football loves the free market, and I don't want to spend all the time that I get to talk today on just the concept of NIL. We do that so much in the offseason, so I just want to make a couple points specifically to this Michigan situation. Bryce Underwood goes to school 18 miles from Michigan Stadium, right? He has shown no interest in going to play for Michigan. He looked me right in our face when we interviewed him, and he said, I want to go to LSU. I don't want to go to Michigan.
So why LSU?
Development at the quarterback position.
And they've had
as you go as far as like history and things like that, like that was a big thing for me. Like for Michigan,
you're fine. Yeah.
Like you don't have the same amount of development as like LSU has at the moment.
Especially, I didn't mean to cut you off, Bryce. I'm sorry. Especially with Jaden Daniels after winning the Heisman this year.
Heard of him.
Yeah, who's going to be really good.
And both schools put out top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL this year.
Obviously, there is a certain amount of money you can offer him that would get him to change his mind. I don't know if that's $10.5 million. I don't know if this is Dave Portnoy stepping in like he said he was going to with the NIL collective. I do think that Sharon Moore looked around the team this past season and said, man, we got All-Americans all over the team. We got All-Americans on both sides of the football here, and yet we're 5-5. Clearly, we've been held back by the quarterback position. I'm going to do whatever it takes to go out and get that guy. Is this your guy? I don't know. Obviously, there's risk when you draft a 22-year-old number 1 overall. You don't know if he's going to pan out. Just like there's going to be risk when you offer an 18-year-old $10.5 million to come in and be the savior of a program. There's going to be risk. That risk gets exacerbated the younger the kid gets, I do believe. How does this affect them in the transfer portal, though? I've heard it on good authority that Bryce Underwood wants to play right away. Does that mean now you can't go get a transfer portal?
If you're paying that guy that amount of money, David,
does that mean that a true freshman has to come in and run the table for you in the Big Ten, kind of like we've seen with Dylan Raiola at Nebraska? Does that mean that we're looking at 6-6 again next year for Michigan, or is he going to be the savior as a true freshman? And then how much time will Coach Sharon Moore get if you're looking at back-to-back seasons of mediocrity? That's just sort of where my mind's been since the news broke today.
Yeah, and Blaine, I do want to say to the LSU fans watching this, the minute this got reported, Bryce Underwood on Instagram put a picture up, I think, of maybe his teammate at Belleville, whatever. There's like an LSU chain or something. So it was like he was responding to this. But Blaine, two-parter for you. One, how does this make Michigan look? Is this too desperate? Does it make them look just unbelievably desperate? And then if you're LSU, if Bryce Underwood comes to you and says, you know what, there's no way I can turn down this money. Can you offer me either this money or something close? If I'm LSU, why would I not go get 6 good players? I don't think LSU has I know Garrett Nussmeier hasn't been amazing, all right? But I don't think LSU overall, their biggest problem is at quarterback. Why would I not go get 6 studs that I can put their hand in the ground eventually and not get my ass ran through by Alabama?
Well, with $10 million, I feel like you can almost sport an entire defense, right? And if you're LSU, hell, what do they need? An entire defense. But, for Michigan, it is somewhat embarrassing because, look, I understand going to get your guy, but if you do throw that number out here, you better be pretty damn confident he's coming. Right after this technically broke, what did Bryce do? Immediately post a picture of LSU. And it's just, how in your mind do you get to that number? $10.5 million.
Well, it did over 4 years.
4 years. Okay, and one, if I'm Bryce, you will tell me nothing. If you're paying me this amount, class, yeah, right, you can do whatever you want to do because you matter that much. And I'm not bringing you here to go sit on the bench if I'm paying you this money. I need you to come in and make a difference right now. So to a certain extent, do I understand Michigan trying to go get their guy? Yeah, but if you're going to go get him, you better be damn sure that you got him because this can blow back in your face immediately, and that's what happened. So right now, if you're LSU, you're feeling good about a lot of things, and if you're Michigan, you're kind of in the dumps right now looking up and looking for other options.
Well, I wonder, in a contract like this, Cone, I just don't see, and maybe it isn't, I don't know, I just don't see a world in which there's not any markers of success you would have to hit.
And can we see those? That's
yeah, like can we? That's it. And I actually, if they went in there and said, listen, if you come in and play and you win 9 games or more your freshman year and you hit this statistical number, we'll pay you $2.5 million for that year. I can actually understand that from a business sense more than, hey, we're just going to give you this money, you just got to stay for 4 years. Because I don't know, David, like a lot of people knows I've been broke before. I've had to sleep in my car before. I've had to ask people for money before. So if you offer me 10.5, that's the thing I'm scared the most about. I'm scared to death about being poor again. I swear to God, I will never be broke again. So if you offer me $10.5 million, brother, I'm probably taking it.
Yeah, and you don't want to create a situation here, which has been created, where you're offering a kid $10.5 million over 4 years, get him to sign, and immediately he's looking for the $100 million from the NFL. That's what has made this college football, this professional college football scenario so unique. Not that we're not all looking to advance in our careers, but we're not sacrificing what we're doing at the moment for some future payday. I do want to respond to this is embarrassing for Michigan allegation quickly. It certainly is counter to the system that Jim Harbaugh set up, right? We want to bring players here and develop them. We're not just, bringing in guns for hire, kind of like you saw at Florida State this past year. It is counter to that, but Jim Harbaugh's not the head coach anymore. I will say, I think that Michigan fans are thrilled to see this today, even if the kid doesn't come, because what it says is they've had to look south in Columbus and hear about this $20 million roster that was assembled. Meanwhile, Michigan, what's the right way to phrase this?
Ohio State's doing well.
Yeah, they're doing well, obviously, but they see a willingness from their biggest rival to participate in the game as it is now. And we've talked about Clemson and Clemson's fans' frustration that Dabo Swinney doesn't want to get involved in the transfer portal and NIL. Well, there's been this thinking that Michigan is just not going to play the NIL game, that we're going to just recruit and develop better, and that's going to get over the hump for a $20 million roster. So when they see this and they see Dave Portnoy saying, you know what? No, we're going to spend whatever we have to go toe-to-toe with our biggest rivals and the teams in the South. South, then they're celebrating this even if he doesn't come.
Let me ask you this. Why wait for this?
For this one specific kid?
Let's look at this Michigan football team. How are y'all built? All Americans all over the field, especially on defense. What were you missing? Right? You're missing a quarterback. What should have you have done? You should have used this money to go get a guy out of a portal instead of waiting for it to fall
You wouldn't even
apart.
have had to spend that money. They got Cam Ward at Miami for what?
Oh, boy's getting offered more money than Brock Purdy's making right now.
But again, that was a timing situation. So if the criticism is why didn't Michigan have better backup quarterbacks when J.J. McCarthy did decide to leave, I think that's a valid question. And look, I had to deal with the same thing when Rich Rodriguez came in and I was playing there. But they played in the last game of the season because they won the national championship. Then Jim Harbaugh didn't decide to leave until a week later. And then J.J. McCarthy didn't announce for a week after that. By that time, you're looking around, all the quarterbacks have already designated spots where they're going, and most of them are starting spring practice. They got kind of caught in a bad timing situation on that one.
Yeah, and I do want to make the difference. There is a difference, and I'm not trying to take the Michigan side in here, but I do understand the difference between spending this amount of money for a guy for 1 year as opposed to spending it on a high school player that the contract guarantees he has to stay for 4.
So expound on that.
So it's a long-term play. I can understand spending some more money if I'm buying a car that's brand new that doesn't have any miles on it. I'll spend a little bit more on it as opposed to getting one that has a ton of miles.
So he's your guy and you can develop him.
Develop him, and in that contract, you got to be here for 4 years.
But he's less proven too. On the other,
he is less proven, so you got to weigh those two things out. So to me, does it turn into something where we're like, all right, well, best case scenario, he comes in here and he's an absolute dog, right? And he's worth every penny, maybe even more than we spent. Well, maybe he comes in and 2 years, you give him a chance and it doesn't work out. Well, the contract says 4 years, or you got to pay a certain amount of the money back, which I'm sure is what it's going to say with that amount of money. Is it worth it on a high school kid as opposed to saying, hey, DJU, come here, we'll pay you $2 million to come here and play quarterback. I'm not saying that's what they paid him. Then all of a sudden, 5 games in, 6 games in, it's not working. You pull him and you're not getting the money back. So I do think there is a difference in thought process over time with a player out of high school, even though he is less proven, as opposed to going out there. But Cam Ward, worth $3 million to me. Worth $3 million. But there's only going to be one, if any, Cam Wards in the transfer portal that are that.
Well, if you're Michigan fans, how long can you wait? How long can you wait? Because you had a chance to go get a guy out of a portal. You had a chance to go get somebody. I know you at least could have got somebody who's better than what you have now. So you're going to have to, and Sharon Moore, you're going to bring this kid in. Is he going to play as a true freshman?
He wants to play right away. He wants to play right away.
Okay.
Which again, that creates a problem for Brian Kelly and LSU, which was my next question. What do you do now if you're LSU? Clearly the kid wants to come play for you more than he wants to play for Michigan, but he's not going to do it out of the goodness of his heart or do it for free. Do you counter this offer?
Here's what I say if I'm LSU. Number one, I go in there and the first thing I say is, I know you want to come here and you know that we want you. All right, we know you may be 18 miles from there, but we're closer than what 18 miles is when it comes to the relationship that we have. What I would say is, listen, I know it's a lot of money, and I know LSU is offering him NIL money. I don't know the amount. What if you go in there and you're like, I don't want to turn this into we have to match this, because we can't match that. And we're not going to match that because, we believe in the team here just like you lead your high school team every night. But here's what we can do. We can bump up the NIL. We're going to give you a little bit. And I will tell you that if you come in here and ball the way I think you're going to ball, the first time that you come in, and after the first year or first couple of years, if it's going the way we think it's going to go when you're here, we can have a discussion about bumping that up too. So that's the only way I know how to attack it. Because I don't think you can go in there and be like, well, you're either going there or you're coming here and that's it, whatever. If you were undefeated and you were number 1 in the country right now and you just beat Bama, and Michigan struggling like they were, maybe you got a little bit more leverage. But I don't think LSU's got that leverage right now. So I'll go in there willing to say, you know what our relationship is. You know how we feel about you. And I'm willing when you come in and prove it, just like I know you will, because you're a man that wants to prove his work. God, I'm just back in my recruiting thing right now.
Look at you. You're in your bag right now.
You're a man that wants to prove his worth.
I'll sign, coach.
Yeah, you're a man that wants to prove his worth. You come in here for a year, do what we think you're going to do, or a couple years, you come in here, and I'm going to make sure you're taken care of. That's the only way I think you can.
Can I just end it with this? As if this situation couldn't be any more absurd, right? And I was thinking, I think the kid's still going to go to LSU. That's where he wants to go. Blaine showed me the Instagram post or whatever. But this is what really complicates it. Connor Stallions is now calling plays for Belleville, for Bryce Underwood's high school.
Which
And if there's ever a guy who's
If Connor Stallions can
if
get
there's
him
ever guys who up to something,
I think
Connor.
it's too late. If you'd have got him there when Bryce Underwood was a sophomore and they had a couple of years together, I just think it's too late. I think Bryce is going to make his own decision. But I'm just so underwhelmed with the execution of NIL. But there's a pattern to that with college athletics. There's no rules in the transfer portal. Now you can play for 30 years if you want to, right? There's really no guardrails or rules on NIL. And if there are rules, they're different in each state. I'm just really disappointed in the leadership just throwing this out there with, building the parachute on the way down.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to set precedent at each stop, which you're going to have to do anyway. But now it just convolutes it even more.
This is the first I've heard the Michigan and Bryce Underwood, especially with the NIL, that much money. I think it was Blaine who said it. It does reek of desperation. And I think it, unfortunately, is a way of distracting us from, quite frankly, it has been a disaster of a year. And what embarrasses me is that it's desperation. And we won the damn title last year. What are we doing?
It just feels like y'all showed up way too overdressed to the party.
Yeah, well, it's just like, my thing is, what would piss me off the most is y'all were as hot as Michigan's ever been at the end of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was ever a time to just go handpick somebody out of the portal, well, it's not like you couldn't have called somebody to ask for money. What, are they going to tell you no? You know what I'm saying? It's just like becoming the president. Now everybody answers the call and everybody says yes, right? So that, I think, is where Michigan fans should probably be the most pissed off. Is it not that you're not going to be hot in this cycle, right? People still know you won the Natty 2 years ago after whoever wins it this year, but you were you were Hansel at the Male Model Awards hot. I mean, it was, just the
Michael, let me ask you two questions here. One, what if this amount of money gets this kid to flip and he does have what we called earlier the Cam Newton impact? Basically, he wins a national championship in his tenure because he came to Michigan the way that J.J. McCarthy did. What happens if that, do you stand by the embarrassing statement then?
Well, if that was a guarantee, then obviously not. But then again, we don't know. And like one of y'all, I think Jake said, if you're offering him that much money, then you're basically saying you're going to start day one, regardless of how you do during spring camp, fall camp, all that stuff, because you still have to go through that process and prove you're worth that. So yeah, guaranteed. If it was a guaranteed outcome, then yes, I would rescind that statement.
Okay, so my second question then, as a Michigan fan, because this is what I was saying to the guys earlier, does this get you excited as a fan of Michigan, even if the kid doesn't come, because you know that Michigan is willing to participate in a big way in the NIL spending game?
So in that aspect, it should excite me. And it's the world we live in now with NIL, and I think it's great that we're willing to really put up the big bag, because Michigan is a big school. They're capable of that with all the alumni, with Dave Portnoy especially. They're capable of it. Yeah, it does excite me. But again, that much money, I would definitely spread that out to, address other issues we have. Well, here's the thing. Let me get this real quick. Unfortunately for me, and this season has proved it, all of that is for naught, because the coaching staff right now at Michigan, and I hate to say it because I like what Moore did for us last year, this staff is not doing it. I don't know how short of a leash Moore should be on, but it needs to be short, and the coordinators that we have both got to go, because unfortunately, especially, how do you not call a timeout when the clock's running, when you have a chance to stop Indiana? That's basic coaching 101. So I know I call about NIL, but again, it's all for naught if the coaching staff is not as good as we need it to be.
Sure.
Yeah. Great call, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Before we get to the next caller, I want to say this. What happens now, though, if Bryce Underwood doesn't go to Michigan? And Michigan's like, well, damn it, we got to go get a quarterback out of the portal. And I'm a big-time quarterback at a school, and Michigan calls me.
And they offer $6 million?
And they offer me $5 million.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you just offered this 18-year-old $10.5 million. I'm not coming for anything less. I'm a proven commodity at this level. So I know they probably didn't want that to get out, but now that it's out, that's what I'm talking about, like setting the market. Like, did you just overextend yourself to everyone who you would want now if you don't get this.
That's a great point. And then I think Michael brought up a great point too when it comes to the coaching. If you have $10.5 million to pay this kid over 4 years, where was the couple extra million when you needed to lock Jim Harbaugh down to keep him from going to the NFL? Now, maybe there was no amount of money. Maybe he just wanted to go to the NFL and win a Super Bowl. But the way that it was presented to us, at least, was the contract is, wavering back and forth, and they're not locking him in. Lock that guy in, and then he can get any number of quarterbacks.
Or hey, Colson Loveland, you want $8 million because he's a junior, right? Because is Colson a junior or senior? Hey, Colson, you're projected second, third tight end to go. That's going to be into the first round, early second. What if we offered you that money to stay for another year and then you go to the NFL?
No, I just think about Michigan with like a Diego Pavia. You don't have to give him everything.
We'll take him.
You can give him 2 Big Macs.
Hey,
and
look,
a
I heard
handshake,
Peyton Thorne
and he'll
is
go.
interested in going back to the
and he'll go.
I mean, at that point, I got an extra year of eligibility.
Yeah, you would want money. Peyton Thorne would have to pay you money. YouTube, one mission. That's it. Subscribe. That's all I'm asking. I'm easy, right? Not asking too much. Not trying to change the world. Maybe a little bit. Just one subscription at a time.